Picture this. It's Christmas morning. A nephew wants to jump into a Fortnite match. The TV says, "Log in." You tap. Nothing. Try again. Nothing. Across the house, the new laptop won't sign into a game launcher either. Social feeds light up with "Is it down?" posts. Now, we don't need every technical detail to get the feeling. The day was messy for a lot of players, with widely reported sign-in issues rippling across platforms. The point is, what that moment revealed. Here's the setup for 2026. 3 threads collided. Cloud services showed how tightly they depend on each other. Memory prices started climbing as factories chase AI demand. And Windows 10 hit end of support, which changes the security equation for millions of PCs. In other words, your personal computer is a lot more connected to enterprise priorities than it looks. So let's slow that down for a second. First, the Christmas outage idea. Think about how you log in today. You sign into a game, which talks to a publisher's identity service, which might lean on a third-party login, which sits on top of a cloud provider's infrastructure. It's layers on layers. There's a term for that: federated identity. It's a fancy way of saying one account gets you in everywhere. Convenient, until one piece fails. When that happens, it's like a city where the traffic lights share one control box. A small fault can snarl the whole grid. Even if only some of the services had trouble that day, the story is the same. Shared dependencies can mean shared downtime. Here's the thing, this isn't only about games. The same pattern touches email, cloud storage, streaming, and even your smart home. One identity check times out, and suddenly you can't get to things you paid for. Let that sink in for a second. We spent a decade moving to seamless logins and connected apps. We got convenience. We also got concentration risk. One failure point that touches many corners at once. Now, the memory story. If you tried to price RAM this winter, you might have had sticker shock. Part of that is seasonal. But there's a deeper shift. The hottest customer in tech right now isn't the PC builder. It's the data center building AI systems. AI chips crave a special kind of memory called HBM, high bandwidth memory. It sits close to the processor, it's stacked, it's tricky to make, and it soaks up factory capacity and engineering attention. When that happens, older and simpler memory, the DDR4 and DDR5 sticks in your desktop, can get deprioritized, not stopped, just lower on the list when supply is tight. Think of it like a bakery. A big hotel orders thousands of croissants every morning. The baker will prioritize that contract because it keeps the lights on. If the ovens are full, the walk-in customers wait. In other words, AI demand pulls the supply chain forward. Consumers feel it as higher prices, thinner inventory, or both. This is where people get surprised. The RAM in your PC and the memory on a massive AI server don't look the same, but they do compete for shared things: factory time, packaging, logistics, and attention. And in 2026, the line that gets the enterprise a win tends to get priority. Now let's add Windows 10 to the picture. On October 14, 2025, Windows 10 Home and Pro reached end of support. That means no more free security patches, bug fixes, or routine support. Microsoft does offer something called Extended Security Updates, ESU, for a fee. It's a way to keep critical security fixes coming for a limited time. For individuals, there's a paid ESU option that covers you to October 13, 2026. It's not feature updates. It's not quality of life fixes. It's the lock the doors and windows kind of patches. Why does that matter? Because a lot of machines were still on Windows 10 through mid-2025. Think roughly 2 out of 5 PCs. That's millions of desktops in homes, schools, and small offices. For folks who delayed the move to Windows 11, the clock sped up. Here's what actually matters here. Once an operating system is out of support, new vulnerabilities don't get free fixes. Over time, browsers and drivers taper off too. For example, some graphics drivers wind down new features on Windows 10 in late 2026. Office apps shift to a security-only posture. Your system keeps working until something you rely on quietly stops evolving with it. Let that sit for a second. You might be fine today, but every month after support ends, you're betting that nothing breaks and nothing new bites you. So where does that leave us? 3 forces are shaping personal computing in 2026. Cloud convenience comes with shared failure modes. It's easy and brittle in surprising ways. Memory is more expensive and more volatile because AI is the profit center. That tilts the supply chain. Windows 10's deadline forces upgrade choices into the same window as all of this. The key thing here is that none of these are purely consumer stories. They're enterprise stories that splash into our homes. Let's talk impact without the doom. Short term, if you're on Windows 10 without ESU, you're on borrowed time. Security risk grows with each month you're unpatched. If you do use ESU, understand the scope. It's critical fixes only. No new features. It's a bridge, not a destination. If you're planning a build or an upgrade, RAM may be your swing cost. Makers might ship systems with just enough memory. Prices may drift higher than you expect. Creative work and modern games often prefer 32 gigabytes and up. Budget plans that made sense in 2024 may feel tight in 2026. On the cloud side, outages won't dominate your life, but when they hit broadly. Authentication issues can lock you out of multiple apps at once. That's not you forgetting a password. That's a shared gate being jammed. Here's a useful mental model. Think about resilience in layers. Some things you want local and boring. Some things can be cloud first and fast. The trick is avoiding a single choke point for the tasks that matter most to you. A quick note on controversies. The Christmas week problems were widely reported by users, but the exact root causes are often messy and not always public. And RAM forecasts are forecasts. Supply can loosen unexpectedly if demand softens or factories ramp faster than expected. So treat the trend as a nudge, not a prophecy. Now, a few practical takeaways if this applies to your work or your household. If you're still on Windows 10, decide your path. ESU can buy time into late 2026. If you go that route, set a calendar reminder for a real migration plan. In other words, use the year for testing, not procrastination. If you're planning a PC build, consider locking in RAM earlier in your buying sequence. Memory is the line item most exposed to AI demand. You don't have to hoard. Just avoid making it the last thing you price. Keep one offline capable lane for critical tasks. For writers, that's local documents with cloud sync later. For creators, that might be local project files with backups. For gamers, keep 1 or 2 single-player titles that don't require a sign-in dance during an outage. Smooth the browser and driver transition. If you're moving to Windows 11, update your GPU drivers and your main browser in the same week. You'll save yourself a bunch of odd edge cases. Build small resilience habits. A basic UPS battery under your desk can protect against short power blips. A spare Ethernet cable in the drawer beats Wi-Fi tantrums on a deadline. Not glamorous, very effective. Mind the login sprawl. Using a password manager and setting up recovery options reduces the pain when an identity provider has a bad day. It won't fix a cloud outage. It will make your recovery faster when the lights come back on. For small teams, stagger upgrades. Move some machines first, learn the rough edges, then move the rest. You spread risk without slowing down to a crawl. So, where does this go? In the near term, enterprise buyers will keep steering the ship. AI training and inference pull dollars, talent, and supply. Cloud providers will harden identity systems the way utilities harden grids. Slower than we want, but steadier over time. Consumers will see the benefits, but they'll arrive as a byproduct, not a priority. That means personal computing in 2026 favors deliberate choices. Longer life cycles, fewer impulse upgrades, more attention to the boring stuff, backup, updates, and power quality, because the flashy stuff depends on it. If you're a tech-curious pro, here's the framing I find helpful. Authentic resilience beats checklist resilience. One offline-capable app you genuinely use is worth more than 10 cloud services with export buttons you'll never touch. Budget the experience, not just the specs. A machine with enough RAM that never hitches will feel faster than a spec monster that swaps to disk all day. Treat OS support timelines like weather forecasts. You don't panic when it might rain. You bring a jacket. And yes, if you're still nursing a stable Windows 10 machine that never touches risky websites, you might sail a while longer. Just do it with eyes open. The security ramp is downhill, not up. One last word on the emotion of all this. It's easy to feel like the ground is shifting under your feet. In a way it is. Consumer tech spent a decade trying to delight us. The next few years look more like shared infrastructure we all ride on, with enterprise customers in the front row. That's not the end of good personal computing. It's a cue to buy and build like a grown-up. Fewer assumptions, more margin for the unexpected, and a little extra RAM when you can get it. Quick recap before we wrap. Reported holiday week outages reminded us that shared logins can be shared failures. Plan for a few offline moments. AI's appetite for HBM is tilting memory supply. Expect some price pressure on consumer RAM. Windows 10's end of support turns upgrades from nice to have into safer path, with paid ESU as a temporary bridge. If you found this useful, a like and subscribe helps us keep making these videos. Thanks for watching.